Hello, everybody. Adam Bergman here, tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. On today's video, I am going to be discussing what you need to know about what to do with your old 401k plan. So today's video is going to focus on the rollover rules. What can you actually do with your old 401k plan, or maybe even your current 401k plan funds? What are your options? So I wanted to do the video today because, hey, this is a common occurrence. And I'm going to throw some statistics at you because that's what I do. You think I come to these videos without preparing? Of course not. On average, people switch jobs 3 to 7 times in their work life. In 2022, 30% of the workforce changed jobs. Okay, 42% changed jobs every 2 years. Okay, so that's a big chunk of people. And a lot of those folks are super confused as to what they should do with their 401k. Why? Because 60 million Americans contribute to a 401k plan, which is not so great when you consider that 68% of Americans have access to a 401k at work. So if you just assume there's 300 million Americans, and the number's bigger, but just for simplicity standpoints, 300 million and 68%, you're looking at a few hundred million people that have access to a 401k, and only 60 million are contributing. So we got to do a lot better. But for the 60 million Americans that have access to a 401k, okay, and are part of the community that switches jobs 3 to 7 times in their work life, this is something you need to know. And unfortunately, this is not anything that your HR department will probably tell you. It's not something you learn in college. It's probably not something you care to check out on Instagram, right? There's a lot more exciting things to do and scroll through than how the rollover rules work. But guess what? You came to the right place because I am a tax attorney that specializes in the taxation of retirement accounts. So this is what I do, and this is how I'm going to teach you. So let's start with the most common option when you leave your job. Okay. That's called an IRA rollover. So there's about $500 billion a year of money moved from a 401k to IRAs. Now, why would people do that? Well, IRAs give you more investment options than 401k plans, right? Assume if you're watching this video, you may have access to a 401k, and you may have noticed that you have limited investment options. Most of those investment options are ETFs or mutual funds, some robo funds. In fact, most 401k plans will not even let you do individual stocks like Apple or Tesla, and certainly not real estate or cryptos or precious metals or private equity. You're really stuck with ETFs and mutual funds, which are fine. They're okay. But what happens if I tell you that since 2000, over the last 20 years, private equity has outpaced the S&P 500 2 to 1? Okay, so yeah, you have investment options, and we all have access and exposure to equities, but diversification is important too. And the main reason why people move their funds out of a 401k, out of an old employer 401k, is they want to have more investment options, and that's what the IRA provides. IRAs allow you to do almost anything you want, except 3 things. Just can't do life insurance, can't do collectibles like art, and you can't do any self-dealing transactions like buying a house and living in it, buying yourself a car and driving it around town, right? You can do anything else. So when people realize that, hey, I'm leaving my job and now I have the ability to do a lot more with my retirement accounts, they jump on that opportunity. And that's why the IRA rollover is the most common. Now, rollovers directly from a 401k to an IRA are tax-free. Okay, it's a tax-free IRA rollover. You can do it as many times as you wish. It's tax-free. Okay, that means a direct rollover, meaning it goes from your former employer 401k to the new IRA custodian. It doesn't go to you first. If it goes to you first, that's called an indirect rollover. Okay, and you can do that, but remember this: that indirect rollover, you have 60 days to then move those funds to another retirement account. If you fail to do so, you would create a taxable distribution and potentially a 10% early distribution penalty as well if you're under the age of 59 and a half. On top of that, there potentially could be a 20% withholding tax on the amount you take as an indirect rollover. Okay, so something that you definitely you'll want to think about before you do it. It's far more common to do a direct rollover. Direct rollovers mean the money goes directly from your 401k to your IRA. Okay, and that is the most common approach. Another reason why IRA rollovers are common is fees. In a lot of cases, the fees you pay on your 401k plan or the administration, record keeping, and investment fees are going to be higher in a 401k than an IRA. Okay, because in an IRA, if you're doing equities or different types of investments, those fees are generally lower. So that's another reason why people want to move their funds out of an IRA. Thirdly, you may not want to keep your money in your old employer's 401k, right? Like generally when you break up with an employer, whether it's a retirement, whether you just found a new opportunity, you quit, whatever it is, a lot of times you're just like, hey, I want to kind of move on, right? I don't necessarily want to be calling up my former employer every time I need to take money out, or if I have a question or a distribution or I want to do a loan. I kind of don't want to deal with that. And guess what? A lot of employers won't even give you that option. They basically are just going to push you out. In fact, there's something called the Safe Harbor IRA, which means if you have less than $5,000 in your 401k and you do not disclose to the employer what you want to do with the money, meaning you just leave and you don't indicate what you want to do with the money. Why? Because in a lot of times you don't even know you have a 401k, right? I can't tell you how many people I've talked to call me up and say, Adam, I think I had a 401k with my old employer. I'm like, well, what do you mean you think? How do you not know? And they're like, well, I never made contributions, but my buddy who I worked with told me that the company did a 4%, non-elective contribution, meaning they put in 4% of my salary each year, whether I put money in or not, or 3%, 4, 5, whatever, based off the company. So that means even if I didn't contribute, if I made 60K, that's $2,400 a year, if it's assuming a 4% non-elective. And if you do that for 5 years, that's 10K plus returns on that. You may have 15, 20K. What do you do? Oh my God, I didn't know about it. Well, if that is under $5,000, what would happen is the company, if they have a safe harbor provision in their plan, they would be able to move those funds out of the 401k to an IRA custodian who would be, in charge of kind of getting in touch with you and helping you decide what to do with those funds. The bottom line, the employer doesn't want the cost of administering your 401k since you're no longer an employee of that business. They just don't want to deal with it. Now, if your funds are above 5K, and that number is going to 7K, I believe, under the Secure Act 2.0, they may have to leave those funds in the plan or track you down to tell you to get rid of those funds. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you do know you have a 401k and you're leaving your job, the most common approach is ask for the money through a direct rollover, meaning you go open an IRA, or if you have an existing IRA, you'll provide your former employer, whether it's through HR or the 401k admin company, all your IRA information, and they'll wire the cash to your new IRA or to your existing IRA tax-free. And then from there, you can decide to do traditional investments or alternative asset investments, whatever you wish. Okay, so direct rollover is the number one popular option. As I mentioned, number two, the indirect rollover, not as popular. You only have 60 days to work with those funds. You have to return them within 12 months to a retirement account. You can only do an indirect rollover once every 12 months. And there potentially could be a 20% withholding tax that would apply to the indirect rollover. And if you wanted to then make good on that 20% because you don't want to lose it, you'd have to add 20% in from your personal funds to get the retirement account back to the place it was prior to the withholding tax being taken from that distribution. So be careful of indirects. Directs are probably the way to go. So what happens if you don't leave your job? What happens if you still work there and you have a 401k? What are your options? So this is something most folks don't understand and don't know. And I've told the story many times. I didn't know. I remember I was a first-year attorney and I met some guy at a bar. He's like some hotshot financial advisor. And he's like, Adam, you're a first-year lawyer. You're going to make good money. I'll be your advisor. I can invest your money. I was like, cool, I'm maxing out my 401k. I'll give you that. And I remember calling my HR department up in the law firm and saying, okay, how do I roll over my 401k to an IRA? And I remember the lady said, Adam, you're in the tax department, right? I was like, yeah, I'm a first year tax associate. They're like, well, shouldn't you know that you don't have access to your funds? It's like, what do you mean? It's coming from my paycheck. It's my money. It's not your money. She says, yeah, but under the 401k, there's something called a triggering event. And if you're under the age of 59 and a half and are still employed through the business, you don't have access to those funds, which I should have known. But guess what? I never took a retirement account in law school. I never took a taxation and retirement class in my master's program at NYU. So if I had no idea, and how could most Americans, how could those 42% of folks changing jobs every 2 years, the 30% of people changing jobs in 20% in 2022, how the heck are they supposed to know these rules? And guess what? A lot of things go wrong here. What happens is people end up pulling money out the wrong way. They take taxable distributions, or they take an indirect distribution, and then they blow the 60-day, and now they're suddenly owed tax on 100K or 200K or 50K, and they've just lost their retirement nest egg. So it's super important to understand these rules, and they're not hard. You leave your job, do a direct rollover to an IRA. I would not advise you keeping the money in the plan. Do not do an indirect rollover if you don't have to, because there's potential 20% withholding, and you got to make sure you comply with the 60-day. If you are still employed and you want access to your money, if you're under the age of 59 and a half, you're probably not going to be able to do it. Now, there are exceptions. The first exception is a loan. You're able to borrow $50,000 or 50% of your account value, whatever's less, and you use that for any purpose. So that is one way that you can get access to your 401k without paying, without basically leaving your job, because you're under the age of 59 and a half and will not comply with the triggering event rules. So the loan's one easy way. It is a 5-year loan. Interest and principal is combined, straight line. You can pay it back monthly, quarterly, biweekly. The difference is interest rates are high now. You're looking at over 8% interest rates, prime. During COVID, it was 3.25%. So 401k loans are not as popular as they were during COVID just because the interest rate is high. Now you may say, well, I don't really care. The interest rate's going back to my plan. So it actually is a good thing, because on a $50,000 loan, the interest is going to be a lot more at 8.25 or 8.5% than it was at 3.25%. Agreed. You just need to make sure you can afford the loan payment. That's what I always tell folks. Loans are great. You just need to make sure you can afford to pay back the loan. Because if you don't, you could be subject to a tax and a 10% penalty. Hardship distributions. Secure Act 2.0 is now made taking a hardship distribution easier to prove to your employer. It could be a financial, it could be medical, it could be a number of other reasons, but generally it's the financial or medical, including paying a mortgage, paying medical bills. And it's a lot easier now to prove hardship than it was prior to Secure Act 2.0, which was passed December 2022. So the government understands there's financial needs, things happen, emergencies occur in people's lives, and they need to tap into some of those funds. So they're now making it easier on the plan participant to actually get access to those funds and not having to get into a tug of war match with their employer and proving that there is an actual financial hardship. Those are the main things that you actually can do with your 401k. The distinction is, if you're currently employed, you have that triggering event at age 59 and a half. If you are leaving your employer, you have a triggering event, and then the options open up where IRA rollover, direct, indirect rollover to an IRA or to a new employer plan, right? Go a direct rollover to an IRA. I should have mentioned, if you start a new job at Apple, most plans will let you roll over existing retirement funds from a former employer tax-free into the new 401k at your new employer. But a lot of people just like going to the IRA world because you have more investment options. You can do a self-directed IRA and do real estate or private placements or gold or cryptos or whatever else you want to do. Plus, you can also do stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, but you have more control. You can buy individual stocks. You can pick the actual ETFs and mutual funds you want and not what your employer selects. And be wary that if you have less than $5,000 in your 401k when you leave your job, you need to actively indicate to your employer or your former employer what you want them to do with the funds, mainly direct rollover, because if you don't, they're going to move those funds to another IRA custodian who will then charge fees, and it becomes more difficult to track it down. So here's some tips. If you're considering leaving your job, make sure you know what you have. Okay, I'm telling you, you would be shocked to know how many people do not know they have 401k funds at an employer. Why they don't put contributions in, or guess what? They are automatically enrolled in a 401k because most mid to large companies will auto enroll you. They won't even give you an option. They're going to auto enroll you in a 401k, and the money's going to get taken out of your paycheck. Well, a lot of people don't study every line in their paycheck in their W-2, and they may not realize that 30 bucks, 20 bucks, 15 bucks, 3% of their salary over 52 weeks is being taken out of their paycheck. They just may not pay attention. They may just assume that's a local tax. But after 7 years, 10 years, 15 years with the company, plus if the company was also making contributions, you may have 3,000, 5,000, 15, whatever it is, and you may not know about it. You may just tell your employer, adios, baby, I'm out of here. I'm retiring. I'm going to a new job. Thank you, but not thank you. It was a miserable experience working for you. I never want to hear from you again. And that's it. And guess what? There are billions and billions of dollars sitting there in people's former employer plans or in safe harbor IRAs that are just losing value every year because fees are being taken out, and the plan participant is losing the benefit of it. So just be mindful of that. Make sure if you are leaving your job that you ask the question to your human resource department, whoever you're dealing with, hey, confirm, what do I have in a 401k? All right, what do I have? I want a breakdown. I want to see it. Don't just leave, hand in your computer or whatever, your security badge, and just bolt. Don't do that. You may be leaving thousands of dollars on the table. It is such a bad situation that the Secure Act 2.0 actually has a lost and found type provision that's going to go in effect, I believe, next year, or in 2 years, where the IRS, Department of Labor, are going to work together to have this like online lost and found database where you can like type in your name or social security number, and you can actually track down if you have any money out there at former employers, because these assets appreciate over time through compounding returns, investment returns, and you just would be shocked and blown away how much money is out there that people don't know. So that's it. Those are the key things you need to know if you have a 401k at a employer or a former employer, what you need to be aware of. Again, just to confirm and just to summarize, direct rollover to an IRA or 401k is your best bet, the most popular option, 500 billion plus each year. You can do the indirect rollover, make sure this is 60-day, and ask about 20% withholding if you can get that waived. If you have less than $5,000 or now $7,000, always ask what you have in a 401k before you terminate your employment. If you are currently employed and need money, if you're under 59 and a half, you may be out of luck. Then you have to at least consider the loan option or potentially a hardship that will give you access to those funds, but you will still owe tax. You'll escape the 10% early distribution penalty, but you will still owe tax. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know I did. These are fun. If you have topic ideas, leave a comment, leave a question. I'm doing these for you and me. I learn from this. I prepare. I hope I can help educate more of you. This is an important area, as I mentioned. 60 million people contributing to a 401k. 30% of the workforce changed jobs in 2022. 42% over 2 years. It's 100 plus millions of people. And there's so many billions of dollars left behind. It's out of control. So hopefully this video at least lights a light bulb, something in your head where you're just, hey, I'm about to leave my job, or I'm thinking about it. Let me ask this question. Hey, what do I have in my 401k? Can I have a breakdown? Send me an email. I know I'm not contributing, or maybe I am contributing. Do you have an auto enroll? Yes, no. No? Okay. Are you doing non-elective contributions? Non-elective contributions, and IRA Financial does this. We do a 4% non-elective contribution for all our employees, meaning if someone makes 100K and they don't want to participate in the 401k for whatever reason, we'll give them $4,000 free money in their 401k. Okay. Some people don't even know we do it, right? They get hired, they're busy with their work, they're not like studying this stuff. We also auto enroll people, right? After, I think it's 30 or 60 days, we auto enroll them in their 401k. They may not even know. So, and again, I'm not Apple, I'm not Tesla, right? 80 something employees, we don't have 50,000. So this is happening on a grand scale, and it's a wake up call. Just ask before you leave your job. Don't just bolt. Ask. Hey, it's your money. You may be entitled. You are entitled to it. So ask the question. Do not leave it on the table, because what happens is the former employer, if it's small, under 5 or 7K, now they'll move it to a safe harbor IRA, and trust me, those fees just eat up the account, and you're never going to see those funds again. And it's your money. It's your money, whether you put it in or not. Your employer put it on your behalf. It's vested. It's yours, and you should get it. And hopefully, continue saving and grow it for your enjoyment down the road. So, thanks for watching. I really appreciate you guys spending some time here today. Have an amazing rest of your day, and cheers. Thanks. If you guys have questions, client or non-client of IRA Financial, call us. We would love to hear from you. We have an amazing team of tax specialists that are available to chat. If you want to do it by phone, email, chat, we're here to help. That's our number one goal, really. So appreciate you guys hanging out with me today, and I'll see everyone again on the next YouTube Live. Take care.